All right, guys, welcome back into another PGA DFS live video. Got the Arnold Palmer Invitational this week. This is going to be one that I'm attacking kind of aggressively this week, a little bit more than I have been typically. Going to be going over some questions that we received throughout the weeks, and then we'll be going over, some GPP plays, maybe some pivots. Yahoo's really sticking out, especially for some salary relief. There's a lot of price down players, a lot of $20 players that are typically cheaper than they should be. I'll start off with the high tier here, and then I'll get into some questions as they come in, and then I'll go into the mid tier, low tier, and then I'll get into the FanDuel and Yahoo plays. So I just want to echo once again just how good of a play Rory is this week. Yes, he's priced up enough, but obviously the recent form has been tremendous. Of course, history here is great as well. I mean, his last 3 starts have been T6 or better here. That pretty much goes along with what his recent form is as well. He's one of the best stat fits in the field, and obviously he ranks out really well in my model this week. So I think if you can, you should pay up for Rory. Typically, I don't like to say that. It's kind of obvious, but he is such a great play this week that I just want to get that out there and say that. And I am just looking through, I posted this on the tour page. This is going to be my stat model. I'm just using my phone this week instead of the printout that I normally do. It's pretty easy. You can tap on Rory. You guys, I don't know how well you guys can see this. And then just go off of there and you guys can see the stats and whatever model rank. So I'm just using that this week. I didn't want to do a print off. I think it's a little bit easier for me. Tommy Fleetwood, I do want to touch on this as well. It's an okay play. The price point is definitely priced up enough again this week, but I'm going to echo the same thing I said last week about Tommy Fleetwood. The reason that he's priced up this much is due to his likelihood to make the cut. Other than Rory McIlroy, he has the highest likelihood of anyone to make the cut, and then also he has 2 top 10 finishes. Last week I was on Fleetwood. Yes, he was priced up, as the highest player, but out of all the players last week, he was the most likely to make the cut. I mean, he's made like 33 straight in a row. So the same thing can be said this week. How's the weather looking this week? Yeah, so I'll touch on weather here in a second. Let me wrap up the high tier plays, and then I'll touch on weather and whatnot. Good question there, Smoking Guns. And then Bryson and Xander, I already touched on in the last video. I still like those plays quite a bit. I'm on them quite a bit, and I actually put those 2 together into a lot of my builds as well. Adam Scott and Sanjay, and I got on a little bit more as the week went on, just because I ended up in that price point quite a bit with my last builds. Adam Scott, I think, will make the cut. His recent form has been great, so I like him. He plays these type of events well, and if it does get windy like it's supposed to be, I think he'll do fine. Obviously, Sanjay M handled the wind really well here or last week, and then he also had a T3 finisher last year. So I do like those plays. I ended up on them quite a bit. And then other than that, I really don't think we have to force anything in this range. Yes, there is one build where I don't have Patrick Reed in my player pool, but I like the build, and I couldn't get up to Sanjay M. So instead of rebuilding, I just threw Reed into one of my lineups. I didn't really love it, but he's been in great form. He took a week or 2 off from his victory, so now he's going to be ready to go again. All right, going to begin into some questions now, and then I will get into the mid tier and low tier for DraftKings, and I'll get into the FanDuel plays. So touching on weather. So weather is pretty interesting here. It does look like it's going to be pretty calm on Thursday morning until about maybe 10 or so, maybe around 9:30. That could change a little bit, and obviously weather changes quite a bit, so you don't want to make it like your end-all be-all when you're looking at weather and whatnot, but it is something good to look at. Typically, I only like to use weather for showdown slates, so right now I'm attacking the first round and skewing it with weather. So I'm going to be looking at players that are playing earlier in the first round. If you want to make some builds for the whole tournament based on this, you can. I know on Friday it's supposed to be 10 plus mile an hour winds the whole day, where on Thursday it does seem like it's going to be around 7 mile per hour winds until about 10, and then it's supposed to get gusty. So it does seem like the early tee times on Thursday will have somewhat of an advantage. It's just a matter of how much. So I will be looking at that. And then just want to go over some potential pivots. I know a lot of people in the comment section were kind of worried about Harris English and how chalky he'd be, and I get that. I just love the stat fit for him. But if you guys are potentially thinking about, fading him, I get it. Maverick McNeely's right there. He has played very well recently, and he has made the cut in his one start here, so I definitely get that. He doesn't really make bogeys, so that'd be a fine play. And then Ryan Moore. Excellent course history here. He's been in spotty recent form, but Ryan Moore's just one of those guys where he pretty much just gets a top, 10 or misses the cut. And so if you're just trying to make a GPP lineup like you are, and trying to fade Harris English, I think that play makes a ton of sense. He hasn't really been making bogeys this year. 33rd in that, and then he's 21st in that 200 plus outscoring average. And then he's been hitting the ball and striking the ball really well. So if you want to do that, you can. And I also really like Scott Piercy at that price point as well. Other pivots, I do like Billy Horschel and Terrell Hatton quite a bit, but I think Bubba Watson and Max Homa are going to be cheaper or lower owned plays. So obviously those guys can go out and pop. They're definitely more GPP plays, but I really don't mind those plays. Hey, what's going on, DFS Chef? Hope you're having a good day. Sorry you couldn't make it out to the DFS Open. Hope you had a good weekend, though. Glad to see you in the chat. Do I like Stenson this week? So I do like Stenson. The problem with him is I just like the players priced beneath him a little bit better. You could go with Benny Ann. You could go with Leishman. You could go with Fitzpatrick. I'm not really on Leishman or Fitzpatrick this week just because of the other players in the price point range. I like Morikawa better. I like Bubba Watson better. I like Hatton better. And I like Horschel better. I think that Stenson and Poulter are pretty much the same play this week. So we're getting Poulter essentially a lot cheaper than we are for Stenson. You look at Rafa Cabrera Bello, he's pretty much the same play as those two as well. He's priced by Poulter's range. So, I struggle with Stenson this week just because of his recent form. It'd be like paying up for Justin Rose. I don't know. I just don't like to be that early on a guy that is not showing it stat fit wise. If their stats were popping, sure, you could take that risk. But, I'm just not seeing it at that high price point. All right, glad to see you'll be there next year. I hope I am too. I'm planning on making it there next year. We'll see if that works out. I'm a little bit worried that the DFS Open next year is going to be right around March Madness weekend because I'm going to Vegas this year for it, so for the opening round. So that'll be pretty fun, and I think I'll do that next year as well, but I'll have to decide which one is going to be more fun, going to the DFS Open next year, if it's on March Madness opening weekend, or going to Vegas for the opening weekend. I'll have to figure that one out. Just want to touch on this real quick too. Lineup process this week. So last week, a lot of my success was just due to DraftKings forcing us into lineups. And it's not exactly happening that way this week, but there are a ton of lineups where I'm paying up for Rory, Fleetwood, Bryson, or Xander, and then I'm just going with a bunch of the value plays. For GPPs, they're really forcing that this week just because the under 10K to pretty much the 8K price point or 8.1K price point, they're really all the exact same play. So there's really no point in trying to go on and get those guys. So it's really forcing us to pay up for, those top 5 players this week and then just go and hit the values. There's a ton of decent 7K, low tier plays this week. So they're kind of dictating my lineup process this week, kind of like they did last week. And that's just kind of going to be the week that we have in cash. I did do the fair and balance approach, but in GPPs, I'm definitely taking more risk than I typically would just because I think there's a lot more upside in this pricing. My biggest worry about this week is the percent of lineups that will get 5 out of 6, 6 out of 6 across the cut line because it's invitational and because there's not as many players in this field. And because of how priced down a lot of these players are. It's really soft pricing on DraftKings this week, but it is a lot more soft priced on Yahoo this week, which I'll touch on that in a second here. Actually, I'll get into that right now. So we'll pull up Yahoo's pricing here. You got Ryan Moore at $23 on Yahoo, Scott Piercy at $22, Harris English at $21. Now, if you guys are worried about, Harris English ownership on DraftKings and you also play Yahoo, just play him on Yahoo or do vice versa. There's a ton of great value here on Yahoo. So if you want to fade him on Yahoo and just get your ownership to him on DraftKings, you can do that because we got Maverick McNeely right there. Charles Schwartzel priced at $20. I typically like to be a little bit more risky on Yahoo, and he's been in better form. That's a good price point. And then Taylor Gooch. So Gooch I like a lot, and I'll just give this to you guys out there. I like him a lot for the first round as well, so I'll play him in the showdown quite a bit. He ranks out top 50 in like the three things I was looking at for to differentiate in the first round. So you look at his early scoring, first round scoring, and whatnot. He was checking those boxes, as well as a play that I like quite a bit. He's priced down on the showdown site as well, so you can really make a lot of easy lineups on the showdown site. You can fit Roy McIlroy in there pretty easily. Hey Grizz, so yeah, pretty much if I'm mentioning a player and I don't really mention someone unless they're just a pure GPP play. So if I'm mentioning them, I'm expecting them to make the cut or at least have a higher likelihood than the players around them. So yeah, I'm bringing these guys up because I think that they'll make the cut. And it's mostly just because they're priced down. Now, yeah, Schwartzel is definitely more of a GPP play. He has less likelihood to make the cut, but I do like him. The other guys in there I do expect to make the cut. They're all priced down pretty cheap. Yeah, Chefs. So they are all underpriced this week. They have been Ortiz is down there. I think there's a couple other ones. They've been really good this week at their not having players minimum price. That shouldn't be. Last year they were so bad at it. But this year they've gotten a lot better, except for kind of like the last 2 weeks, essentially. They're starting to get back into their old habits, it looks like. Before I get into the FanDuel plays, let's get back into we'll get back into some of the DraftKings plays here. So I want to go down a little bit lower. Do want to touch on Harold Varner a little bit. He's priced at 7.1K. We know with Varner, he's a very streaky player. He's always a good stat fit, it seems like. He's top 15 in my model ranking this week, and he's top 10 stat fit. But that's pretty much on par with him the whole year. I do think that he makes for a great GPP play. He is going to get the better tee time split this week. Now, I'm not putting too much of emphasis on that, but maybe for a showdown play, I don't mind that as a play. And then Taylor Gooch, I already mentioned it, priced at 7K on DraftKings. I do like that price point quite a bit. He made the cut here in his one start. That's just going to be a solid play for me this week. DFS Chef does rock. Going into Scott Piercy. So I already mentioned this a little bit, but I want to dive deeper. If you take a look at his recent form has been phenomenal. The only problem with him is that I played him last year in this event. I think I had him in my cash build last year. I had 6 out of 6 last year, and I'm pretty sure Scott Piercy was in it. I have to double check that, but I know I had 6 for 6, and I believe it was because of him. But it was definitely more risky last year because he had missed 4 straight cuts here at this event, and he was a lot better staff fit. He wasn't in as good a form, but it had been more long term. But he made the cut here last year, T54. So at his price point this year, I do like him as a play. You could definitely roll with that. And then let's just get into the value tier here real quick. So Lanto Griffin, he's like my 5th highest rated value play this week. And that kind of sums up this week on DraftKings. That's kind of why I'm bringing him up. He's been pretty spot on this whole year, except for a stretch there where he missed 2 cuts in a row. I do like him as a play quite a bit. He ranks out as someone that should make the cut here. And I do want to mention Lanto. The reason I'm bringing him up this week is because I'm going to be on him a lot at the Players' Championship, I think. Even if you're trying to place bets, I think this would be the week that I would do it. But if he makes the cut this week, I'm going to be on him quite a bit next week. He's been playing there. I think he's now a member at that course, or, he lives right by there, so he plays it a lot. So just kind of look into the future there for you. I think Lanto's going to be a play that I'm on quite a bit next week. So I will be watching him a lot this week to see how much I'm going to be on him essentially next week. Because if he makes the cut, I will be on him quite a bit. And I do want to mention Patrick Rogers at 6.6K. This is a guy that I see making the cut. Now, it could be close. It could be, within a stroke or two. It could be kind of a Friday sweat. But, he's been really solid recently, making 3 out of his last 4 cuts here and throughout the season. He ranks out top 60 in my model this week, so I really like him as a play this week. He's a top 40 stat fit as well, so that's going to be a good play for you. Value-wise, obviously, he only ranks out he's the 4th highest value play that I have there as well. I think you guys could guess the other value plays based on probably what's coming up here, so we'll touch on that. So FanDuel, Harry Higgs and Matthew Naismith are both priced down quite a bit. They're priced down a lot on DraftKings, but I really like that price point on FanDuel this week. And then Stuart Sink. So I feel like Sink isn't getting any talk this week. Price at 7.3 on FanDuel. I think that'd be worth the risk there, especially if you're trying to do studs and duds. If you're trying to get Rory in there, maybe throw Sink in there. He has a higher likelihood than everyone around his price point to make the cut there. I don't like that too much, but if you guys are really convinced on a lineup there and you're left with that price range, I just want to give you guys that play. That'd be the one I roll with. And then Taylor Gooch, once again, on FanDuel, pretty cheap there. And then Harris English and Ian Poulter. I kind of think they're mispriced kind of across the board this week, but FanDuel was really sticking out to me because it makes your lineup a lot stronger if you go with those guys. Yeah, RBC, Heritage Boy. Yeah, Piercy, I don't really like him. Obviously, he's really successful for me last year being my highest owned player. So it's getting close this week, or this year, who's going to be my highest owned player. He's sneaking in there. Matthew Naismith is sneaking in there. Heritage English is sneaking in there. And then Russell Knox, obviously, had him a ton early on. Might not have any of him this week. All right, I missed one from Joshua. Let's go back to the questions. Who are the 2 chalk offers you would fade? So I haven't looked at ownership too much. Typically, I don't like to look at it that much because the more you look at it, the more you start to overthink things and you really just start making decisions that you typically wouldn't have. And, even if they're chalk, as long as they make the cut, it really doesn't matter. I know English will probably be chalky this week. Hatton seems like he's getting talked up enough as well. And like I said, I haven't really looked at the chalk at all this week. So I can't really help you there. But, if you're – don't let the chalk dictate your lineup decisions. That's just one of those things that you should use for like 50-50 decision makers, especially for GPPs. If you're trying to make, close out your build and you don't know who to play, and I'm going to pull it up here. So let's say you're on, who is it? Let me find a price range here. So let's just use Ryan Moore and Harris English as an example. I kind of already did. If you're trying to gain some ownership leverage, I think Harris English is going to be a lot higher owned. And let's say for you, if they were grading out exactly the same and you're like, hey, I'm going to take the, ownership edge, you could go with Ryan Moore there. But, that's just kind of an example. I don't know if that was the best one. I think it made sense. Pretty much just use that as a 50-50 decision maker. If you're stuck on 2 players and they're grading out the same, you can gain an edge by going with, the less owned player in your eyes. But really, that shouldn't be anything that you focus on too much. Your main focus should be getting 6 or 6 across the cut line. And if you're doing that, you're going to have a successful week pretty much every week, other than the no-cut events. All right, so I'm going to be wrapping up here pretty shortly. Do want to touch on this. So this is what I've been looking at on my phone here. This is the weekly stat model that's available on the membership. So it has all the players listed out according in order of their DK salary. So as an example, I use Billy Horschel here. Hasn't missed the cut here in the last 4 years. Ranks out top 25 in my model. He's a good stat fit as well. And then I'll show you guys Harris English. You can use the search bar on there as well. So press on him. And there you go. You can see what I'm seeing pretty much. Obviously, he's missed 2 out of the last 4 cuts here, but he's made the last 2 at this event. So that's kind of what I'm seeing with the stat fits for that. If you guys want to, you can check out the membership page. It's $10 a month. I get you a sample build. This week I gave you my top 4 plays in that build. Just kind of a good first look for you guys. So you can use that as your research process to see, okay, this is kind of what he's seeing. Let's see where I can adjust it and make this lineup most optimal for my style of play. Give you guys a player pool, cash plays, stat model. I am working on a membership chat there as well. I have started implementing that slowly. So that'll be there as well. All right, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Appreciate all the chat. I do want to say, I haven't said this in a while, but I really appreciate all you guys coming in here. Appreciate all the Twitter likes and whatnot, the thumbs up on the YouTube videos. That never goes unnoticed, and I really do appreciate that. That's kind of one thing that the DFS Open reminded me of, is like, I'm really just grateful for all you guys out there. So I do appreciate that. I will say, please give me a like, subscribe if you enjoyed the video. You guys typically do. So once again, I really appreciate that, guys. All right, I'm out. Thanks. Let's have a good weekend.